If someone's listening to you now, Opeyemi, and thinking of buying their first pharmacy, what advice would you give to them right now?
Know your why.
What has been your biggest challenges so far?
I think it's been about certainly not. I don't think you need to have all the money to be able to start looking.
Yeah.
But have a plan.
Welcome to Behind the Counter Pharmacy and Beyond. I'm your host, Solomon Abuede. And today we begin a very special series, a series I've wanted to create for a long time. There's a question that hangs over every pharmacist, every prospective owner, and honestly, every contractor in the UK right now. And that question is pharmacy still a good business? It's a question filled with hope, frustration, confusion, fear, and possibility. And the truth is, there isn't just one answer because the answer depends on where you are in your pharmacy journey. So, over the next few episodes, I'll be speaking to people at 6 different stages of pharmacy ownership, from someone about to buy their first pharmacy all the way to someone who has been in the business for nearly 20 years and has decided to exit. This series is about honesty. It's about the truth behind the numbers, behind the counter, behind the emotions we really talk about. No sugarcoating, no PR, no pretending. And today we start right at the very beginning. We're talking to someone who's standing on the edge of the biggest decision of their personal career, of their professional life, perhaps, buying their first pharmacy. They're filled with excitement, I'm sure, uncertainty, and a million questions, just like I was, just like most owners were. This episode is called Before the Leap: What First Time Buyers Don't Know About Pharmacy Ownership. So let's dive right in. Welcome to the
Hi.
show.
Hi, Solomon.
Hi.
Hi, hi, hi.
I'm really excited to have you here because your perspective sets the tone for the entire series. It's the first episode of this series. But before we get into the journey, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners and share where you currently are in the process of buying your first pharmacy and what your journey has been in pharmacy up to this point?
Of course. Hello again, Solomon. It's really an honor to be your first guest on this series, and I'm a fan of the podcast, so it's lovely to be here. My name is Opeyemi Lasore Olaiwola, and I've been a pharmacist for a little over 10 years, and I've worked across different sectors. So I started in community, I've worked in hospital, did a bit of primary care, and I've over time I realized my passion is in community. I quite enjoy it. So ownership has always been a part of the plan. Um, I always knew that at a point in my career I wanted mine, and I think it was just time. It's just time to do it.
Well, you said that the ownership has always been a part of the plan. You've obviously
Mhm,
worked in different sectors, and when
mhm.
you say that you've always known or you knew that community was where your heart is, what is it about community pharmacy?
Um, I think that the main thing for me is that I have a bit more control
Okay.
over outcome. In hospital, depending on what sector or what department you are, to be honest, I had a phobia for hospital working in because a few years ago I had a bereavement, and since then I just could not stand working at the hospital. It just hit me so bad when that happened. And so I knew that I wasn't going to be working up the ladder and working for NHS or anything like that. I think ownership for me in community, like I said, apart from having control over your patient, there's just that continuity. You see them this month, you see them next month, you know what's happening. Whereas they come into hospital, they're only there for a few days, weeks, maybe they're gone, you don't know what's happened. But this one, sometimes I see my patient in the mall, in the shops, and they just say hello, and it's just lovely. But when it's just that follow up, you can follow up with the patient, their family, especially the older generation patient, they're so sweet. And I think that the traditional having your pharmacy and having that relationship and having control, wanting control, has always been why I knew that owning one uh, is something I would love to do at some point in my career.
Okay. So 10 years in, been a pharmacist for almost 10 years, you say.
Over
Why
10 years, Solomon.
over 10 years? Apologies. For over 10 years, I can't rob you of those couple of years or year or few months or whatever it may be.
Let's do that.
But why now? Why ownership? Why now? Why after 10 years? Why not 5 years ago?
Um, the correct answer to that is it felt right now. It feels right now. And when I say that, I know that pharmacy is also changing, right? And having that control and being part of that change. So it's okay that something is changing, but when you still have to follow a set of rules laid by some other person, it might not really work. Also, even preparing financially, getting experience, I think that was very important for me to. You cannot know everything about what you're walking into, but at least you can feel prepared. Now, obviously, 5 years ago, I would definitely say I don't feel as confident as I am now. 2 years post qualification, I definitely didn't even know if I what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? And so I think now I've had mentors, I have people that look out for me that I can easily call, and I have the right support, and it just felt right. I think when it's right, you will know. When the time's right, you will know. I
Yeah.
think it's the
I
right
mean,
time.
it's interesting you mentioned the support there, and the mentors. And again, like you said, when the time is right, you would know. And just on the topic of mentor, if there's somebody listening to this, and they're thinking, I would love to own my pharmacy one day, can you sort of, what are the two things you would sort of look at in terms of mentor? And when you said when the time's right, you would know. Was there a time where you felt you wanted to, but you weren't quite ready? And if so, why weren't you ready?
Um, it was very important to me to have the right support, number one. And when I say support, for me, it was a case of sharing the workload at the start. It just gives you that bit of cushion when you're buying your first. So I decided that my first purchase was going to be a partnership because two people doing it, it's not like half the work, it's just double the confidence. Do you know what I mean? And I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I know that my time, I don't have that much time. Yeah, if I had bought it perhaps before I became all of these other things, I might have all the time. But I didn't have the experience and I didn't have the finance at the time. But now I've got a support system, I've got the experience. I feel like I have a better idea of what I'm walking into. So yes, there is a bit of anxiety because just like anything else, there should still be some because you don't want to be overconfident. But I know that I'm ready for it now. And so whatever happens when I get into it, I'll deal with it because you don't go in knowing everything. You go in ready to learn and evolve. So one thing I will say to them is number one, do your due diligence. You can't do too much due diligence. When you think you've done enough, there's still more to do. Number two, know your why. Just know why do you want it. For me, it's to build something. For
Mm,
someone else, if they're thinking to make profit, I would say maybe you don't know what you're doing. But to build something that I can have more control over. I have the freedom to build services. I walk into farmers. I've locum before. I've managed stores before, and you see the way things are run, and you just think, okay, if I had more control, I'll tweak this. I'll tweak this, and it's just that building something that's yours. I think it's beautiful and it's exciting.
yeah, and I think that's great. You talk about the why there. I think, you say you're a fan of the podcast, and you would know that that's something I scream about a lot from my own personal
Yeah.
story. And you need to always know your why because pharmacy will test you. And I think that's probably this series. I have absolutely no doubt is going to show that because I can almost guarantee everybody I speak to will be leaning towards that around the testing. You've talked about it, and it's great that you understand that at the beginning it's not about money. It's not about the profitability. Pharmacy is an interesting business, an interesting sector.
It is because, like, for me, I think you're not just buying a business. You're literally
Mm,
inheriting like a living ecosystem. You're walking. So this could be either you're starting from scratch or you're buying an existing one. So you got to do all these things to understand it, to build it. You don't want to just shatter everything down, but you want to build around it. So there will be a bit of fear and anxiety, but if you really want it, then just go for it.
So anxiety, then you've mentioned that twice in the last couple of minutes. So is there any surprises during the buying process? So what has surprised you the most so far? Because you're obviously very well experienced. You've locumed, you've worked in hospital, you've managed. So was there anything that surprised you in the process of buying and owning your own pharmacy?
Okay, let me just put this out there. I thought I knew about things that would surprise me. And then I was still surprised. And this is even with me having a great support. Like I said, we had a wonderful, wonderful consultant in the purchasing process, from helping us to source the pharmacy to looking through, the spreadsheet for us, because every spreadsheet tells a different story, and it's like detective work. You got to spot these. Every page is different, and we had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful consultant that did that for us. Delta Consulting. Ace. If you want to buy a pharmacy, contact them. But yeah, they were brilliant. However, what surprised me, the timeline, the buying process, the actual process itself is long. And I had an idea that it was long, but I was still surprised at how long it takes. Um, I was surprised at how long it takes for banks to make a decision. But then I can understand they're lending you so much money, so they need to know that they're making the right call. It's technical. It's draining at times. I think it's emotionally draining because sometimes it felt like, oh, we were one step ahead and then we were two steps behind. So I think it's long, it's emotionally draining, and it's emotion, it's just a lot. It's a lot of emotion for me. I feel like for anyone who wants to buy, it's 50% finance and 50% of your emotions, because it's you've got to put so much into it.
Yeah,
And even when you think you've done these, there's still so much more to do. um Again, did I say emotion? Emotional roller coaster when you're waiting for the banks, and you already start to visualize this place as yours, but it's not yours. So you're kind
yeah,
of doing this, your background work from what's currently happening at the pharmacy, and you want what you want it to be. You got to present this to the bank in a way that's going to make sense to them. So, and then they've got to go away and go through stages in their banking system for them to get back to you. So there's a lot of back and forth
yeah.
going on. But like I said, Delta Consulting made that easier, because with every point I just say, hello, I don't know what this means. And they don't explain it to me. Um, what else was it? I think it was mainly that, how long it
Yeah.
takes, and how emotional, the emotional roller coaster. Right?
Yeah, and thank you for the shout out to consulting, by the way. And
Oh,
obviously, the listeners to the podcast would know that we offer a bespoke service to those that want to buy pharmacies, and Opeyemi is one of our clients. Just in terms of door-to consulting, or just consulting in general, whether people choose to use or go to you for advice, I believe it's a big part of the journey, especially if you're starting out or you want to sort of go a different path or want advice. How much value would you put to that? And what do you think, in your opinion, what do you think the journey would have been like if you didn't have the support of someone like myself via daughter?
um, it would have been longer than what I actually said it was. I said it was long, right?
Yeah,
But it would have taken longer,
yeah,
and it just brought clarity to a lot of things. I like business, yes, but I tend to struggle sometimes when it comes to numbers. And it's not because I can't put my mind to it. I think it's just because a part of me is really lazy.
yeah,
And well, I got to work on that now. I'm about to be a no now, so I need to know exactly what. But I am working on it. However, they made it. Well, you made it much easier. It was like a softer landing,
yeah,
because no question was too much for you to answer. And even in the sourcing, during the sourcing, there was a lot of support, and you get the advice, but you do it in a way that you still leave me to make the decision, but you give all the advice that you can. It's really lovely how you balance it all. Um, yeah, I think if I didn't have them, it would have been more stressful,
Yeah.
more time consuming, definitely. And like I said, every page of a spreadsheet tells a different story, and most of the time, it's not the story that you expect it to tell. And the fact that we've got you to explain what's going on to us, even sometimes when I know what the story is on that page, the fact that I've got someone to say, okay, that is what you're thinking, or do you want to have a look at this differently? It's a nice cushion to have. Whatever you do, have support.
And I think sometimes it's the harsh reality, isn't it? The harsh truth that you perhaps don't want to tell yourself as a new business starting out, or even as an existing business owner, and just have the second pair of eyes. So, in terms of the process, then, Opeyemi,
Mhm.
you've said it was longer. Did it look totally different from what you expected? So, what did you expect, and what was the reality? How did those two compare?
Um, just like anything else, there is a theoretical aspect. So I knew that the entire journey takes time because you gotta wait for this person, then you gotta wait on the NHS application, then you gotta, I just didn't know that. And I think the most part of it is the emotional expectation that involved. So it's like, right, I'm excited, we're at this stage now, let's do it. And then you get there and you're like, oh, this business plan needs to be written up. This needs to be so it wasn't completely different
Yeah,
if I'm being honest. And I think that's because we had a lot of support.
yeah,
So I knew that it was going to be long, but I wasn't quite sure of how long each phase was going to be, if that
yeah.
makes sense. The only one I was prepared for was the NHS application because, everybody always said they take their time, they got to do this, got to do that. But in fact, that was probably the smoothest part of the whole journey.
I was gonna say that that actually turned out to be one of the. I must admit I was quite impressed with his speed and the turnaround of that. So I do agree. I was gonna say that that's probably one of the quickest bit of the
Yeah,
journey.
that was the quickest part of it. Um, the the funding part was long as well. Was
Yeah.
longer than what I would have expected. Um, Other than that, I think everything else has been pretty smooth. I ain't gonna lie. It's been good.
Then talking about funding, then that's something that every single business owner underestimates, in my opinion. And I think you've sort of touched on it there. What have you learned about funding, or the other sort of phrase that a lot of buyers dread, due diligence, that you didn't expect going into it? So the funding was took longer than you expected, but if you were to sort of look back or share your experience, what about it? What would you advise, a Opeyemi of 12 months ago, to have or prepare in mind for those two things?
I would say that have um, a lot in terms of your deposit. I would probably have saved more, not just towards deposit, but towards the running cost as well, because the bank don't just want to see that's if you want to go through the bank. If you want to use family and friends and borrow, perhaps you should have it all written out how you're going to set out your repayment plan or what you're going to do. So for me, I would say that have a lot more than you think. So if you think you need 50,000, if you can have double of that, it'd be great for you.
Yeah,
Um, and if you can't, then this is where the due diligence comes in. So you're looking at the figures. So we've seen this pharmacy that we want to purchase. The numbers look good, and they've got a great community. They've got great patients and whatnot. They've got that patient base. You can say there's loyalty. You can see these things to it. And the better part is there's room for growth.
yeah,
So in your projections or your business plan, be realistic. Think about exactly what you're walking into. Because what's not going to happen is that you've bought a pharmacy and you cannot eat food at the house because you don't have any money.
yeah.
So I would say is if you think you need so much money, it's important to have much more than that because the bank also wants to know that you can eat after you bought this pharmacy, or that you can pay the staff, or that you can buy your medicines and stuff.
So
So
they've got to be responsible lenders, haven't they? Talking about the bank, Opeyemi, what has the bank asked for that surprised you the most?
um what did they ask for? What did they not ask for?
Well, you can tell us what they didn't ask for.
Why did they not my blood? But yeah, well, they again, if you're borrowing, I I don't think it's about what they ask for. I think it's the repetition of it, because once you've submitted all of these, say they ask for bank statement, they
Mm,
ask for the account that's got the deposit. You say you have another account, they want to see a statement from that account. Where is the money? They want to see all of these things. If you see you're getting family and friends are gonna gift you, they want letters from them to be sure they want. But it's responsible lending. I get that. So, but it's just the fact that because it takes so long, what then happens is the 3 months that you sent is no longer valid. You got to send another
that's
three
another one.
months,
Yeah.
So, and it's like, it's just exhausting. Can you not just make do with what I've sent you and just use that? So I don't think I was too surprised by what they asked. I think it was just exhausting, because as time was going, the things were not valid anymore, so they needed more stuff. Um, so if you were, like, say, buying with your partner and you were getting some money from them, they will want that as well. If you're borrowing for, well, not borrowing, if you're saying you're getting gifts from your cousins and your uncle, then they're gonna need everybody's statement. So I think if you want to somebody listening that is thinking of doing that, maybe it might be a good idea to get an account where everyone is crowdfunding into it before you go on. You don't have to be
Okay.
getting everybody's bank account all the time.
Mm.
So it's just that bank statement rather from that one account that you're gonna have to present, I guess.
Mm.
But yeah.
Just I'm listening to you there, Opeyemi, and I'm thinking, if I'm listening to this as someone that's about to start out, there are a couple of things that stand out. One, the process takes time. Okay. But also, you mentioned about the importance of not just having your deposit for the business or to buy the business, you need to sort of have a bit extra, which is absolutely spot on. My question then is, from your experience, do you need to have all of that money before you take the leap? Did you have all of that money? And when I'm asking this, because obviously I've spoken to you quite a bit about this, and I remember 2 3 years ago we're having conversations about buying a pharmacy, and I think I said to you that you can take that leap. Now it's a very very obviously individualized, and like I said, all I do is advice. But do you think there will be people listening to this that want to buy a pharmacy but don't actually quite have all of that money, but they know they can low come for the next 12 months, for the next 6 months. They've got a plan to work 7 days a week and get that money together. Do you think they need to have all that money before they start looking, or would you say that they can start looking and they've got time?
Well, thank you for that question, Sullivan. Certainly not. I don't think you need to have all the money to um to be able to start looking.
Yeah.
But have a plan. Have a
Mm,
plan. And that's why I said, when you do your business plan, or you've got to be not just strategic, but you've got to be what was that word I used? Realistic. So
mm,
what are you going to be able to do? So for example, in my case, like I said, we've got double the confidence. I've got two people. So we're pulling resources from two people. So that is not that's helped me, because I don't have to bring all the money from me. And I know that when we start, we're going to have I'm going to be low in on the side to support the business as well. So money should not be an hindrance to anybody starting to have some money, yes, but have a way what you're walking towards to get more money as the time progresses. Because if you start the process, for example, in January, and I would say give it a minimum of 6 months, if you decided you were going to be locoming 30 hours every week, for the 6 months since you started the process. There will be more money by the end of when you're ready to make
Yes.
payments, because you're not paying until when the deal's done.
Yeah.
And even when you do start, think about how you're going to support your business. It's now yours. You're the owner. So every decision, everything is about you. You can't push it to somebody else. So you've got to find a way to keep it afloat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. What's been your biggest challenge so far in your buying journey?
My biggest challenge so far. I have a few, but
What has been your biggest challenges so far in your buying journey?
no, I'll tell you just the one. I think it's been about funding. That's it.
Yeah.
It's been about the funding. And it's mainly because, yes, we projected, but I just wish we had more to put in. Maybe we wouldn't have had that much stress. Because at the end of the day, the more you're borrowing, the more the bank needs to know that you can repay, which is fair.
Mm.
So I would say it's been the funding that's been the most challenging.
Did you ever doubt whether it was going to happen? Did you have doubts?
No, no.
You never did. Why not?
I think it's just the way my mindset works, because I thought that this is happening. If this money is not going to come from the bank, it's going to happen somehow. We will have to find it. We are in this process. We're going to see it through. So there
That's
was even at every point. Okay, it did come to mind to say, "Oh my God, what if we don't get this money?"
yeah,
And what comes to mind after that is, well, then we find another way to get it.
yeah. That's interesting. So you were never in doubt. And what is it? I'm trying to sort of dig a bit deeper. There's got to be something. There's got to be a reason. From what you're saying, it could be because you've got loads of money stashed in the bank. From what you're describing, that perhaps wasn't the case. So again, those doubtful moments will come in for most people, and it's just what is it? What kept you so grounded? Why did you believe it was going to happen?
At the beginning, I said, it's time. I feel ready
Mm,
for it. And I don't know if it's a spiritual thing or it's just me. It's now. It's going to happen now. So even if something is going to give for it to happen, it's going to happen. And I
yeah,
have a support system who would not stop until it happens. So I have people that I would say, this is what I want to do. And until it is done, even they won't stop asking. So I knew that the worst case scenario was that the bank was going to say, we cannot lend you money. I would have to find this money by ourselves.
yeah.
That was the worst case scenario. But the thought of, oh, we're going to have to pull out altogether, I never entertained it.
Yeah, and I think I'll tell you what's interesting. I'm listening to you then, and there is something I always say, and I think I spoke about it in one of the episodes as well. In my own journey, is to have the support around you and people you can bounce ideas off of. And it sounds to me like maybe perhaps as well as your spirituality or religious belief, having that support system is what's giving you that belief, because it can be very difficult owning a business. It can be very lonely. And when you sort of wake up in the morning on the day that you may feel the bank has just said no or they want more documents, and it's about having that person you turn to, wake up, pick up the phone, and then they say something, they do something. And I think what you wouldn't realize now, and it sounds like you may perhaps be realizing it, is further down the line, when you look back at those moments of those conversations, I think it becomes really, really key, how valuable having those people are. So I think, yes, 100%. And they come in different shapes and sizes. It could be a brother, it could be a partner, it could be a friend, it could be a trusted person. Whoever it is, I think it's really, really important. And I always say this to everybody that we work with as well. You need to find that person, or those people, and having that support, because there will be moments where you may be feeling not quite optimistic, but you remember what these people are saying to you, and that's really really crucial for me, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
the early stages, which is where you're at now, it does teach you something, in my opinion. And what's the biggest lesson you've learned so far, even before running the pharmacy right now? What would you say your biggest learning is as you're thinking about ownership changed from what you thought it was? Um, and what have you learned about yourself, about Opeyemi as an individual through this process?
Opeyemi needs to be more decisive. Opeyemi needs to be more patient. I am a patient person, but I could still be more patient. Opeyemi needs to be more strategic
Mm,
because I am more of a spontaneous person. So when it comes to all of this planning and I just it's like, yeah, okay, we'll get it done, we get it done. But this has taught me a lot more about myself than anything. So it's about that decisiveness, about that strategy. I mean, there were days I had to talk to the bank, and I'm pitching my vision to people who don't know me, and I want to convince them to buy into my idea, and I'm sat there over the end of the call. And honestly, there was one I had. It lasted over an hour. It was just grilling upon grilling. He was asking me, I didn't even expect all the questions that I had I didn't even think I could answer them, to be honest. But I think it's taught me that you are a leader, okay, me, and it's not just in the word. It's not just as a pharmacy manager, because then you could still pass on the button. But now that responding to that email has to be done immediately. Signing the document has to be done now. Because if I postpone it, that's probably another 1 week with the bank. So it's about that promptness. Things have to be done quick and they have to be done. I mean, I thought I could think on my foot, but now it's just like, all right, I'm planning, I'm writing things down, I'm using a diary, I'm making notes, which is, I do it normally, but not as much. But this has taught me a lot more about that planning, being strategic, decisiveness, just all of that. Yeah.
The stakes are higher, aren't they? Like you said, when it's your own pharmacy, it's different. You can be a fantastic manager, and I'm absolutely sure you know what's to come or can expect it. You've spoken to a lot of people, you've been around people that run pharmacies, and there are challenges and there are rewards. But I think the stakes are higher, so you have to act differently and appropriately. And you find yourself as well, I think sometimes sort of starting a business can help you discover the inner you, and what you didn't think was there, that resilience and having to sit on a call and pitch to the bank. One of the other things I always say to a lot of people is when you get those moments where you have to pitch to the bank, like you said, they don't know you. Now you have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you can't sell whatever it is you're talking about. And they will see it, they will read through it. So for anybody listening to this and thinking, I've got a meeting with a bank or I need to speak to finances, the belief has got to come from within. You've got to believe in what you're doing. You've got to believe in what you're selling them. They will notice. It will be glaringly obvious if you're making things up. And you just have to have that belief. That's good. Having said that, there is the fear factor as well, okay, and I'm sure you know this. And buying a pharmacy is exciting. But I know from experience, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, it can also be scary. Um, what's been your biggest fear during the buying process, or what is it that you dread the most post completion?
That the patient see us and decide they don't want to come to the pharmacy anymore. I
Oh,
think they probably don't like our face. um, I think another thing I learned before I answer your question is just about risks,
mm,
and I just know that they don't disappear. You just manage it, and then manage it again, and then you just have to keep finding ways to manage it. So when it comes to fears, um, I'm inheriting, like I said, a living ecosystem. I've got staff that will be there. I have a totally new patient base that are not familiar with me. So my fear is that, oh my gosh, we get there and we're not able to deliver. Either because of the systems, maybe the PMR is something that's not working on the day. I'm just thinking about all of these things. Oh my God, what if we can't dispense anything on the first day and patients are upset? And I think that the fear for me is just that transitional phase. And again, like I said, the risks don't disappear. You just have to find ways to manage it. So we just got to put everything we can. And I always say to people, if you do your best and if it still doesn't work out, at least you go home knowing you did your best. So
Yeah.
it's the fact about finding ways to mitigate those risks on the day. Oh, okay, that transitional period. For me, as a locum pharmacist, when I was locum, when I walk into a new store, I know that by the end of that day, I know exactly. I have a very good idea of what each staff member is like. I know that I'm able to read people quite easily, and I can see what their attitude to work is like. So, and the most important part of a business are the people because they drive it. So it's really about the people that are there for me, because if the people are supportive and good workers, it's going to be easier to transition. But if the workers don't even accept us, then it's going to be more difficult to sell us to the customers or to the patients. So I think that's my biggest fear. It's about the people that we're going to be working with,
Yeah.
um, as opposed to anything else.
And I think honestly, Opeyemi, I wish I could sit here and tell you your fears are not justified. I think from experience they are very, very valid fears. I do also genuinely believe that the fact that you're thinking about that and that's your biggest fear is a good thing at this stage. Obviously, we're working with you and we will support to make sure everything on day one goes operationally smooth as it possibly can. However, I think all I'd say is for anybody listening to this in a similar position, you turn up on the day and you do your best. You give it your best shot. The PMR may not work like you say, but then you need to almost prepare that and plan that, and have a plan B, C, and D. But sometimes you get in and everything works smoothly. But if you prepare your mind and you're prepared to sort of go to, okay, this is plan B, this is what we tell the patients, then you find it's not as bad.
Yeah.
And again, we've spoken about this as well, and this is a really big part of me in terms of people see you, and for whatever reason, they just don't like it. And pharmacy is an interesting business or sector, and I've seen this happen so many times over the years with the different acquisitions we've done. Patients in pharmacy build relationships with people, with the owners, with the staff in a particular pharmacy. And it's always tricky with an independent pharmacy because they've built relationship with Mr. X or Mrs. Y, who owns the pharmacy and they've been seeing every day for the past 20 years. Um,
Mm,
and what then happens is you come in. Now, you may not do anything different. You don't even have to. And I have seen this from experience, and people would, just not come. I only come to that pharmacy because of that guy, because of that lady. They've treated me right. And I think that's where so there will be that transition period. And again, I think we've spoken about that. And I think for people listening to this as well, I always recommend in your forecast, which I've done with you, Opeyemi, I plan for a 10% drop in the first year of taking over a new business. And the reason is simple: sign above the door changes. You just don't know what's going to happen. But from experience, that tends to build back up by year 2 or year 3. But it's just a
mm,
shrewd way to do it. You've got to expect that initial drop for whatever reason. So I think you're in a really good place. The fact that you're thinking about it. And although it's a fear, but that's all it is, fear, and you just need to go and face that fear. But just talking about fear, then, I mean, obviously, you're scared of going in and people not showing up. I was in a similar position when we opened our very first pharmacy. I thought,
mm.
what happens? I mean, you're worried about day one of me. I was worried about the first 6 months. And I thought to myself, I'm like, right, I defined my worst case scenario very, very early on before we opened the doors. And I thought, okay, the worst case scenario is we go down this route, we spend however much we spent, we sit in that shop for 6 months and not one person walks in. That was my worst case scenario. And I thought, we'll shut the doors and we've given it a go.
That's
We,
it.
we go back, start low coming, and we go back again. So I think because I'd faced that, I'd thought about it, it was like, and on the first day when I only dispensed one item, in 16 hours, I was like, oh, That's better than what I expected. My fear is like not a thing anymore. And I think sometimes it sort of helps to prepare that. But here's an interesting question though, just generally, is Opeyemi scared of failing?
No, I'm scared of not trying than
Okay.
failing. Failure teaches you a lot more than success would. I don't want to wake up at 60 years and say, oh, because the pharmacy market was crashing and this was happening and this person said it's no longer profitable, so I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Or if I do it and I fail at it, or no, or it doesn't work, the fact that I've tried it is enough for me because I would learn. I believe failure is just a learning process. I'm not scared of failing. No. I'm
Well, there's a,
scared of not doing it.
there's a saying that says people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan.
Mm,
And I like that. And you said it that failure teaches you a lot more than success would. And I do agree with that. I mean, there's another saying that I can't remember who said it now, who said they would never take business advice from somebody who has never failed in business. Now,
so
that's a different thing. They're two different things. Running a business and failing in business, two different things. And when I think about that, I think, yeah, it kind of actually makes sense. You can't advise on what you haven't experienced. You can't advise somebody on how to handle failure in a business or how to handle difficult times in a business if you haven't been through it yourself. So I think that that's something else that I hold on to. I would never take advice from someone who hasn't failed in business. Now, failing in business is one thing, and as great as that can be, sounds weird saying failure is great, but like you said, it's not failure as we see it. But when you have people that have been through difficult moments and have quote unquote failed, and they've been able to bounce back and then
mm,
sort of turn it around, then I think that's even more valuable. So I
yeah.
like that. Failure teaches you a lot more than success would, and I would take
I've
that.
tried. Yeah, I've tried some business ventures before that didn't work out. I don't term it as fail. It didn't
Yeah.
work out. Doesn't mean I won't try it again. I will, but when I'm doing it, then I'm doing it from a point of experience. I'm no
Mm.
longer doing it. I know what it is work, and so I'm going to try a different approach. Like you said, is it possible that we get into this pharmacy and everybody decides that they don't like our face, I don't turn up? It is very possible. Are we going to have things in place to mitigate that risk? Yeah, like you said, we're going to. Are we going to put in, like I said to people, when you walk into that pharmacy, either as a dispenser or a pharmacist, you make sure that you do your best for everyone who walks to the door. Because when you go to bed at night, you know that there was nothing more you could have done for that patient. It could have been a smile. It could have been have a good day. It could be, is your medication okay? Whatever it is that you think is your best, give it to each person and just watch. It's gonna,
Mm.
they're just gonna love it.
If someone's listening to you now, Kwame, and thinking of buying their first pharmacy, what advice would you give to them right now in this current scope? You're in it already, you're about to buy your first pharmacy. Before they make that leap, what's the one advice you'd give to them?
Know your why. I know I said that before, but know your why. Because when the bank say no to you, or the friend that promised you money said they no longer can give you the money, or the money that you had saved up for it, an emergency came up and you had to use it, and you're like, am I going to get this? Your why is what you would go back to. And that's what builds your resilience. And you keep going and saying, no matter what happens, I want this. Know your why.
What's your why,
That's
Kwame?
important to me. Building something.
Your
That's
why
my
is
why.
building something.
Mhm.
What's something?
A community pharmacy that is mine that I have control over.
And what's your
And
vision?
helping people my way.
Yeah.
My vision.
Is it just
My
1, 10,
vision.
20? How many branches have you thought that far?
Oh, I have. But whatever the number is, I would still like to, it could be 4, it could be 10, it could be 20. In as much as we can maintain the quality of service and we still have would I say like you walk into the pharmacy and you feel like you are you are part of something, either you're a patient or not just because you're going to get some medication, and I don't want that. So if that's 25 or 50 branches or 55 or 4, that's fine. But so far we're building something solid, because I would rather build solidly and take my time than have so many so quickly that the quality of care is not the same.
Yeah. So it's about maintaining that quality for you, sort of
Yeah.
high standard of service. Is
So
there
I
any?
say due diligence as well. Due
Yeah.
diligence, and don't rush the numbers, because, like I said, when you're looking at the numbers from this pharmacy that you want to purchase, they tell a story. So don't assume, oh, this is what is going to happen. No, no, no. Don't rush it. Just take your time. If you don't know, ask people that know. So you have a good idea of what you're walking into. At least, even if it's 10 times worse, you have a better idea of it.
And is there anything you're looking forward to? It's a stressful period buying a pharmacy. Are you looking forward to? Have you got any plans to distress after the completion, or are you just
you
sort of
know,
looking to head straight into it?
I have learned, I've always done, but more than ever, now is a case of always celebrating the little wins.
Yeah.
So either is the bank said yes or NHS said yes. I've been celebrating this whole time. Anytime I get a yes, we have a little celebration.
Why not?
That's what I do. So celebrate the little wins. So I know that on completion we're gonna get those keys, and even thinking about it, the it's a mix of excitement and anxiety and fear. Just okay, we've got
Yeah.
to do this now.
It's an exciting journey, and I can tell, I can see the excitement in your face, and I really hope your story today inspires somebody to go and chase that, because there will be people out there that want to do this. There'll be people out there that have sat on this for years. They just don't know when to take that leap, or if they're bold enough to take that leap. And I think, listening to you there, what's not to be excited about? What's the worst that can happen? And I think if there's anybody listening to this, you've sort of heard enough from Opeyemi today. If you've been following the podcast, you can go back and listen to the previous episode. You can listen to my story. I've shared my entire story right from the very beginning to where we are today. And the idea is to inspire somebody, just to make somebody get out and think, I'm going to do it now. And if that's you, go for it. Drop us a
Yeah,
comment. Let us
go
know
for
that
it.
the episodes helped, the podcast helped. I could finally go in and do this. And if you need support, you know where we are. And so we're going to wrap up now, Opeyemi. And finally, from where you're standing today, and this might be with the excitement that you've shown about this, in your opinion, do you believe pharmacy is still a good business to get into? Now, I'll qualify that question a little bit, and I'm sure you're familiar with all of the noise around pharmacy, the contracts, the courts, category M's, and all of those things. Do you have any worries at all about what pharmacy may be like in the next 5 years, or in fact, any excitement of what pharmacy holds? Because there's some exciting things that are happening in the sector as well. So is pharmacy still a good business? And if so, why? What excites you about it, or what are you worried about?
Um, I think the answer to that question is relative. For me, I would say yes,
Mhm.
because it's moving away from the traditional style to more clinical focus or private services, and the fact that you've got that means it could be what you want it to be. So if you wanted to focus more on running private services, you've got to learn, you've got to be open to learning and unlearning, um as a contractor, as an owner. So I'm excited that there is these changes that I know that I would now have to firsthand be aware of. And yes, would it be a good change? I don't know. Would it be a bad change? Perhaps. Are we going to deal with it? Yes. So I'm going in with what I'm. This is a stage, a phase, and this business is a good business. And if I focus on that, Even when people are saying, "Oh, this is happening," is still going to be a good business for me. My mindset is very important to me, so I don't let situations rob me of it. So if you're thinking of it, check your numbers, do your due diligence, go with a positive attitude that you're going to give it your best, and you're going to be willing to learn and unlearn, and push, push, push. And I'm sure, I mean, if you think you're going in to make a lot of money, yeah, probably not a good business to go into right now, because there is so much going on. You probably have to do a lot of work, like I said, have a lot of private services that you're doing, and be willing to change and adapt. Adaptability is very important in this business, I think.
Just mention the private services in there. I'll talk about it only because you've mentioned it. What's your plan for private services? Have you thought that far in terms of what you'd like to do and what you'd like to do differently, perhaps, to the existing contractor in that particular pharmacy you're buying?
Yeah. Do I have to tell you that? But yeah, joking. There is a lot of window in the pharmacy we're purchasing to, for example, they don't do weight management services. They don't do that. They don't do a lot of travel vaccination. So we're hoping that we can have a lot of digital presence, and we can facilitate a lot more services, even e-syringing or whatever it is, that not only fits the demography, but that people can come in and say we've booked it online and we've come in for the service. So it's a digital era. We've got to tap into that. So there's going to be a lot of work around digital presence and launching services. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your time today, Opeyemi. What I loved about
Okay.
today's conversation is that it reminds us of something that we forget as owners, and that's that everyone starts somewhere, everyone takes a leap, everyone walks into the unknown at some point. But what stands out for me today is the intentionality in your decision making, the ownership, especially, and in this sector that we're in this day and age, it takes intentionality. And buying a pharmacy in 2025 isn't the same as buying a pharmacy in 2010.
Mm.
The pressures are different. The learning curve is steeper. But like you've said and highlighted, Opeyemi, if you approach it with awareness, honesty, and the right guidance, it can still be one of the most rewarding journeys you'll ever take. And I do genuinely believe that. And if you're listening to this today and you're thinking, I want to buy a pharmacy but don't know where to start, you're not alone. And there is no right way to do this. There is a right way to prepare, seek advice, reach out to us and drop us a message. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Opeyemi, I'm sure I can relay any questions and stuff as well in the journey. But if you're thinking about this and you want to sort of jump in and you have any questions or anything that you've heard today, then please do reach out. Opeyemi, there are a few things that sort of picked out, sort of looking at the key takeaways from today's episode from your experience. And I think you've said a few things, get experience before you jump in. Yeah. You've said fear is a part of the journey, but fear doesn't mean that you're not ready. And I think that's a key one. And sort of, talking about failing, um, you said failing teaches you a lot more than success would. And I would hold on to that literally. I think that's a thing for me. Um, you also mentioned about having the right support system and experience. And I think that's really key. If you're a first time buyer or thinking about going to about owning your first pharmacy, that's something I think you need to consider. And getting that support early as well. I think the timing of that support is crucial because it's never too late if you're at any point in the journey and you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. You can always start and get that support at any point in the journey. Um, you also said, Opeyemi, that buying a pharmacy takes time. You need to be prepared and be patient. I think this one has tested your patience. Um, and and risks don't disappear. You just have to manage them. But I think if it's anything to help Opeyemi to make you feel better or anybody listening to this, it does get easier in a way. The first one's the most difficult one. And once you sort of got your foot in there, then, you can start building on that and it does get easier. Thank you so much for your time, Opeyemi, and thank you to my listeners for listening and joining me on today's episode of our special series, Is Pharmacy Still a Good Business? Today, we stood at the beginning of the journey with someone preparing for their leap. Next episode, we'll move deeper. We'll be speaking to someone who bought their pharmacy 2 to 3 years ago. At this point, the honeymoon is over. Reality has kicked in, and the reflections may surprise you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with someone who is thinking about pharmacy ownership. And as always, the best prescription for success is resilience. See you in the next episode.